On today's episode, we chat with a man who is the embodiment of tenacity, drive, and perseverance. A man who can literally trade a button for a bus and drive that bus across Canada, making impact in communities from coast to coast. So today on the show, we have the Honorable Ryan Lancaster. How are you, sir?
I am wonderful.
Good.
I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Tell me a bit about you before we dive into like the crazy awesomeness of you. Where did you come from? Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
What is the meaning of my life?
Yeah.
I am from Burlington, Ontario, originally, an Ontario expat, but I came to Kelowna, to Rutland, actually, Belleville Elementary, when I was 5 with my family, and my parents split up a year after that, and my dad moved down to the coast, and he trains standardbred racehorses, so we would spend our summers and Christmases and spring breaks, my brother and I, down on the Cloverdale area, and then in the summers we would go over to Vancouver Island. They would do a racing circuit in Sydney, which is like that little town when you first get off the boat, and it was awesome. It was like basically being at summer camp for like 2 months a year. My mom hated it because my dad had like a free range parenting policy, and and then from there we moved down to the coast at the end of grade 6, and I lived there till from 98 to 2008, and then I moved to Kamloops, and I went back to school, and I went to TRU for a year. Shout out TRU. Ooh. And then I moved out to Penticton, and then I went to OC and graduated with my diploma from there, and then moved my way back up to Kamloops, unfortunately, but and then eventually back to Kelowna. So that's my full circle.
That is a full circle of life.
Boom. All
right, we're done.
Arrived here today.
And what did you think? Okay, so when you went to TRU and then you eventually went to OC and Penticton, what did you think that you were going to do? What was the dream?
Oh, man. I think I didn't dream very big when I was in school, to be honest. Like, when I was a kid, I dreamed a lot bigger.
What did you think you were going to be as a kid?
Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was younger, I thought I was going to play for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Nice.
I definitely at one point thought I was going to be Spider-Man. That was I was just like waiting for like the spider to like to catch up to me. Yeah. I was like, come on, man. But then I got really into acting when I was in high school, and in theater and film and television and writing. I ran the school newspaper, and
nice.
Yeah, so I thought that I would be an actor, and some
might say you are.
Some might say that I am. Yeah, and so then after I graduated, I sort of just got into work and life and busyness, and I didn't really have a lot of direction, and then that's what sort of threw me back into going back to school when I went to TRU, and I was doing part-time and working full-time, and I was like, oh, well, you know what, like, I'll just get my business diploma because it'll like help give me a little bit of a boost in the business world and like set me apart, and I can get better jobs, and it'll be great. And then when I transferred down to OC, I got into volunteering with Enactus, which is like a student volunteer organization from across the globe, and that's when I met some of the best people in my life, and when I got really into social entrepreneurship and really started to dream again, I guess. And then I graduated, and then got really kind of disillusioned with the business world again, and that's when I like started feeling like I really need to shift back to those dreams that I'd had when I was a kid, because you just it's so easy when you're a kid. Your life is filled with all these amazing things. You're going to gym class, and you got film and television class, and you're going to art class, and then you're like social studies, and then I'm like writing poems in English class, and then you graduate.
And everyone's telling you can be anything.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. And then you graduate, and you're like cool, and they're like I can do anything, but then you're
Except
like,
for you need to get a job and pay your taxes.
There's that, and then you need to decide what you want to do, and I had a big hard time with trying to make that decision, so I just kind of did whatever was the next in line, whatever was like, you know, and didn't really make any big commitments. I was like a big commitment phobe, so all my exes would be like, yes, he was.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. No. I'm engaged now.
Yeah.
Sorry, ladies.
And so, okay, you wanted to go back towards sort of social entrepreneurship, dreaming, all that kind of stuff. And when I first met you, you were just coming off of a year of a new thing every month.
Yes.
So tell me, where did you get to in your life where you were like, I need to quit my job and do a year of new stuff?
Well, I didn't quit my job right away, and I guess a lot of that was the problem. So, as I had mentioned, like after I graduated, I got into the business world, and I was, working a really good job that I was making really good money at, but that I didn't really feel super fulfilled with, and I was in debt, and just like I was drinking a lot and watching a lot of Netflix, and I had a good social life, but I felt really kind of disillusioned by the life that I created for myself, and very frustrated that I had not pursued my life more, and that I was like really kind of wasting my time, my life, and the summer of 2015, I had 3 friends pass away rather tragically in the summer, and one was a rafting accident, one was a motorcycle accident, one was testicular cancer, and and it really shook me, and it really forced me to look objectively at my life, and it really sent me into a bad depression at the time. My 3 friends were all people that I really admired, I looked up to. They were all pursuing their life to the fullest. They were entrepreneurs, and they gave back in the community, and they had great social networks, and everybody looked up to them, and so did I, and I admired them. And then I thought, oh, like I can be like them. And then when they passed, I was like, oh my God, I'm nothing like them, and I'm not, and I should be, right? And so at the end of the year, I was like becoming very angry. I was lashing out at people, and I was feeling just very, very depressed and frustrated with myself. It's all about me, but of course it comes out at others. And I wasn't sleeping very much, and I was reflecting a lot on like the things in my life that were good and that I wanted to get back to, and that I'd been procrastinating. And so writing was one of them, and so I just started writing, and sort of just spilling out and like being really vulnerable with where I was and the frustrations that I was having, and then I did, upon a lot of reflection, wrote down a big list of these challenges or like big pursuits that I always felt like I wanted to either explore or to challenge myself to do, and to like really push myself outside of my comfort zone and start doing more. I felt really trapped by the life that I had created because of the debts and the jobs and what have you, and I felt like I couldn't make any big massive changes. So this was like an outlet to just make some small changes, and make those shifts without really like an expectation of where it would go or what it had to be. It was just like something I was doing solely for myself. And so I wrote these 12 big crazy life goals down, and I said, okay, I'm going to do one every month, and I'm going to be accountable, and I'm going to totally commit and not be a commitment phobe, and like just I'm going to really invest into one thing every month for a year and see where it takes me. And I learned the first month was like I'd always wanted to learn coding and like learn how to build a blog, and I was writing anyway, so it was like I wanted an outlet to feature my stuff. So I taught myself how to build a WordPress blog, and I put it up, and then I started sharing like weekly and then the next month I wanted to be more of a minimalist. So I said that I was going to try and live on a budget of $250 for an entire month to live more minimally, and I stupidly followed that month up with a month where the first month I was going to cook something new every single day for an entire month, and then I followed that up with the budget month, which was a terrible decision because I had all of this incredible food, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm learning to become such a great cook, and then I had all this extra food in the freezer, and then I moved into my budget month, and I had to live on $250, which didn't include like any of the food that I had or any of the money that I'd spent last month. So I had to live on like $8 a day and let my girlfriend at the time eat all of the delicious food that I ate, and so she's eating like these pot pies and stuff like that and roasts, and I'm just like, I got my like Mr. Noodles and yeah.
So at the end of a nutritionally depraved month.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Once you strategize and like really budget down, like it was a real hard lesson on budgeting and like living in excess, and what if you really push yourself. Actually, I couldn't drive, so I borrowed a bike, and then I was biking every day, and then the bike that I was riding I broke, and a friend of mine had loaned it to me, so I was like, okay, well, I love you, I'm sorry, but I only have $250, so because I've already spent like half my month, and I ended up reaching out to a bunch of bike shops in town, and the bike barn down in Penticton said, this is awesome, like we'll loan you a bike, and they just like let me walk out of their bike shop in a different city, with a road bike, and I ended
up. You had to bike all the way back to Kelowna?
I did bike all the way back to Kelowna, and actually I biked halfway back, and then I got lost, and then a friend of mine picked me up.
It's like a straight road shot to get here.
So here's the thing, like, so for those who don't know, so it is a straight road shot, but Summerlands Hill is like terrifying, so I thought that like in my head I could just go around it for some reason, so I stayed on the beach shore, and then eventually just ran out of road, and then had to go up. Meanwhile, my friends were driving back to come pick me up, and they're like, I don't see Lancaster anywhere. Like, shouldn't he be on this road? And then they call me, and they're already like almost in Kelowna, like in West Kelowna, and they're like, where are you, man? And I was like, here's the thing, I'm in like somewhere where I don't know where I am, and this dog has been following me for like the last 20 minutes, and it looks really hungry. I swear to God, I'm going up this hill and it's chasing after me, and eventually my legs gave out, and I just had to like say, okay, this is it. This is where I die. And the dog caught up. He was friendly, thankfully. But
yeah, he just wanted a hug.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, and that whole year really transformed my life. I mean, I did everything from trying to experience something new every single day for an entire month, which was a complete nightmare to try and orchestrate, to overcoming my fear of open water swimming, and committing to swimming across the Okanagan Lake in a month, which was 2.1 kilometers of open water swimming, which terrified the living shit out of me. I like literally thought that I was gonna
be eaten by Ogopogo.
Eaten by Ogopogo, or fish food or something. Yeah. But somehow I got through that, and somehow I got through the year, and it just really transformed my life. And the blog was called Scale My Life. It's scaleMyLife.com. You can still look it up. It hasn't been touched in a really long time, so excuse the bad writing and probably outdated plugins on the website. But so that was when we first met.
That was when we first met, somewhere partway through that year, I think.
I think it was, yeah.
At the end of that year, so by the end of that year, you had quit your job and you were doing this ScaleMyLife.com project full time. Yeah. And when that finished, that year was done, what did you do next? What were you inspired to do?
Well, at the end of that year, I was kind of blown away that I like survived the year, and like how much it had transformed my life and given me purpose. And I had like dipped back into all of these creative ventures. Like I was doing video content and I was blogging, and I just felt so fulfilled with the work that I was doing now, and so I didn't want to give that up. So I thought, okay, well, what other areas of my life have I always wanted to explore, and like, what things do I want to do with my life? And social enterprise and community impact were things that I'd gotten away from as well since leaving college and getting away from Enactus, and so I wanted to find a way to do that in some capacity. I also had never traveled in my entire life, and never, especially across Canada, which I always felt like was kind of a shame, because I feel like we have this like incredible country that we call home, but you know, like I only know a small little pocket of it, and there's so many pockets and so much culture and so much history, and it just felt like such a travesty that I was just, you know, like I'd gone here and a bit into the States and like to Mexico once, you know, and like that was my travel, my like world travel, right? And so I thought, okay, well, I lived on $250 for a month. Like, you know, what if I could transform my whole life into more of a minimalist journey? And what if I could travel across Canada and have it somehow be impactful to charity, to community? So I always love the concept of these like tiny homes and these like people who live in buses. And so I said, okay, what if I got an old school bus and converted it into a mobile home / office, and I drove across Canada and I, you know, did something positive with that work. It was kind of an insane concept, but like my whole last year had been insane. So like, why not? Right. So, anyway, so I put it out to the world that I was going to try and get a bus. I didn't have any money to get a bus at the time. So I said, because I really love the idea of like making these small efforts towards something bigger, because I just spent a year doing that. So, and I'd heard of this guy that had traded from a paperclip all the way up to a house, and I was like, why can't I do that for a bus?
Yeah, it's less than a house.
It's less than a house. So I put out to the world that I was going to try and trade from a small little Canadian button that I found that said like I Maple Leaf Canada, up to a bus that I could take across Canada. And in 5 trades and 6 weeks, I managed to go from a button to a T-set, to a Nikon SLR camera, to an electric scooter, to a Sea-Doo 2, a 32-foot long 1980 school bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, okay, and so then you got the bus, and there were some adventures with that first bus. And so you did the Scale My Life, then you did the Button to Bus Challenge.
Yeah. And
then you did the Beast to Bus Challenge.
Yeah.
So tell me about Beast to Bus.
Oh man, this is so awesome. Like nobody brings up Beast to Bus. So I mean, like I never, like I grew up, like I said, my parents were divorced, so I didn't have a lot of time with my dad, and we didn't like really work on a lot of like I didn't know anything about mechanics. I didn't build a lot of homes, like, you know, so this was also like a big challenge for me to like transform a bus into a living space. I you know, had laid out what I thought a house would look like inside the bus, and I started building, and all these really awesome people, I think yourself included at some point, like came down and like helped work on the bus, and it became like this like amazing community project. Everybody was coming down to like see or work on the bus, and we spent, I think, like 2 or 3 months working on transforming the inside of the bus. Unfortunately, commercial mechanics is not my forte. Yeah, I know, right? In my spare time, I wasn't also doing that. It wasn't one of the 30-day challenges that I had done. Become commercial mechanic. Yeah. So I had this bus actually ran on propane, and which was also terrifying. And it definitely shot flames out the back at certain points when it backfired. And I managed to get the inside looking decently, but the engine not as much. And at a certain point, sadly, eventually the engine basically fell out of that bus. Fortunately, my friend network was on the scour for replacement buses, because it was pretty evident that wasn't going to make it across Canada.
Let alone out of the parking lot.
Yeah, out of the parking lot, right? And I managed to find a bus down in Oliver that was a little bit more updated. It was 1996 instead of 1980s. And because we had put all this work into the bus, I managed to sell the bus and basically pay for the new bus plus any further renovations I needed to do to new bus. So I basically traded a bus for a bus, and then we had about 48 hours to transform the new bus into this project that I called the $1 Million Bus. And so the $1 Million Bus, the idea was to sell off the entire outside of the bus in 1-inch squares, put people's faces and logos and pictures of their cat on the outside of the bus, and we would sell them for $10 a square inch and raise $1 million for charity. And we found a local charity in Kelowna. We were going to kick off a $100,000 fundraiser for. It was going to be amazing. And I got this new bus just in time, and my poor friends Drew and Harvey and Jamie all helped me like spray paint this new bus and like put decals on it and make it look like the $1 million bus. And then I was about to launch this campaign, and sadly the engine on the new bus broke down. Then the campaign that I launched, we were like expecting to raise $100,000 for local charity, also broke down, and my relationship at the time also broke down. So I was now
not a winning
it was
day.
not a winning day. So I was left with a broken bus and a broken heart and a broken wallet and a broken fundraiser. And so we did end up raising $10,000 for this local charity, the Okanagan Makers Space Society, and which was really cool. But it was a big hard lesson at the time of business, and you think you know what works, and so you build something, and we had focused all the marketing and everything on the bus, because we just assumed people are going to want these squares, right? People are going to want to put their faces all over this bus, and I'm going to have the biggest problem I'm going to have is who am I going to give this $1 million away to? I'm going to have to decide which charities across Canada I'm going to have to give this money away to. That was not the case, and so I had a hard decision to make at the time, where I had two friends because Crazy Loves Company for some reason, they said that they would still come across Canada with me on the bus. So they quit their jobs. I had already left my job, and we were I was left with the decision to sell my house, invest my life savings in the bus, and then push the project forward, knowing the failures that had come before, and hopefully, make it better, or give up. And I looked back on all the big changes that I had had in my life, and I took some hard reflection time and said, you know what, I've been a commitment phobe my whole life, and this is one of those moments where I can go all in on something, and I can just say screw it and throw caution into the wind and see where it leads me. And so that's what I did, and I sold my house and
fixed the engine on the bus.
Completed renovating the inside. We had AC, stove, full couch, 3 beds, a dinette set,
full-on RV in there.
There's a full-on RV in there, for 3 crazy people, and we drove.
Who were the 2 crazy friends who went with you?
So Melissa Spriga and Jamie Connington came across Canada with me, and I owe them so much, because there's no way I would have done that for them. Oh my gosh, are you guys nuts? But yeah, they jumped in a bus with me, and we traveled all across Canada. We found all these really amazing charity projects, and we did little video exposés on them, and kind of did a lot of research of projects that we could come back and fundraise for. And then we parked the bus in St. John's, Newfoundland, and flew back home. And then the following year, they couldn't come on the bus anymore, but I was still committed to going. And I had met this really amazing woman who is now my fiance, and she's a documentary photographer and videographer. And we started seeing each other, and then she
before or after she came to the bus.
We started seeing each other before we got on the bus.
Okay.
But we'd known each other a year prior. She was actually in the original crowdfunding video for the bus.
Wow.
And she'd come out and like build the beds, even though she doesn't know how to work a drill. It was super funny. We have some good video footage, but yeah. So we started seeing each other, and then it was always this like big elephant in the room, because I was like, okay, well, I'm not going back out east. I'm going to go on this bus, and then she called me up like 2-3 months. I think it was like mid-March. We'd been seeing each other for like 3 months, and she's like, hey, so can we meet for lunch? And I said, yeah, no problem. And she said, okay, cool. Well, listen, I just checked WestJet's website, and apparently it's their 22nd birthday, so flights to Newfoundland are like $250. Wow. So I feel like if I'm going to come on the bus, we should probably decide today. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Sounds good.
You want to come on the bus?
Yeah, and she's like, cool, sailing's at 1 o'clock. I'll see you for lunch. And I was like, okay. And I got there, and she had her laptop open, and we talked about it, and we're like,
so working lunch.
What's the worst that could happen? And we booked one-way tickets. We flew into Newfoundland. We met with a local charity there. We launched a fundraising campaign. We raised $8,000 and kicked off like a whole at-risk kids program there. And then we went to Halifax, and we ran a fundraiser there for Souls Harbor Rescue Mission, and raised over $50,000. Wow. And helped build a shelter there.
And so, in the year that you had driven the bus across to St. John's the first time, was that sort of like the finding mission of, okay, where are the communities, where are the projects that need the support? And then the following year was going back to support them.
Yes, but it was a big challenge, because we'd be like, okay, we'll help you soon, bye! And then we'd drive away, and then so there was so much pressure and anticipation of like getting the bus across Canada in one piece, but then like going back and like actually making the project into something, and like also following through on like shifting the business, like the model from the giant failure that I experienced to actually like being able to fundraise for these local charities, and and it really just spiraled and kept. We raised just close to 80,000 in the first year, and
nice.
After 6 months of being, or 7 months of being on the road, I proposed to Mandy, and on a ship.
I was gonna say, tell us how you proposed.
Oh no, that's like a whole story. I don't know how much. You don't have enough tape for all that.
It was romantic. It was on a ship. That's all we need to know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It was. The abridged version is like she flew away to come back. She flew to Calgary to do a photo shoot there that she'd already pre-booked, and I said to some friends that I met there, I was like, I would marry that woman if I could find a ring, and they were like, well,
we'll get you a ring.
We will find you a ring. And then before I knew it, they had gotten me like connected with this custom jeweler who built this like amazing ring that I was so terrified she wouldn't like, but she like thankfully fell in love with. And this guy who owned a ship on the harbor, and like and these videographers who were gonna film it and like pretend like they were shooting a documentary for a social enterprise movie, and then like and so
the social enterprise of your life.
So she flew back out and like was thought we were doing this corporate pitch on a sailboat, and that these guys were gonna come to film this documentary, and like she's like, they kept asking me all these personal questions like what's Ryan really like, and like what's life on the bus, and like and she's like, I thought it was super weird, and I was like, yeah, they're just like super thorough, don't worry about that. And then anyway, so we end up pulling it off. She had no idea, and then she said yes, which was the highlight of my life. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so after this romantic, wonderful proposal on a boat, you guys had to come back to reality.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Well, next, we took the bus on to another fundraiser, went up to Moncton and ran a fundraiser for the YWCA and Cameras for Healing, which is an art therapy program for women that have experienced trauma and addictions. And then we flew home, and we, like I said, had to come back to reality. And we parked the bus, and luckily the BC Transit of New Brunswick, Kodiak Transpo is storing it for us, and has continued to store it for us. Thank you so much, Kodiak Transpo. And they, so we had some debt, and we had some real life to start planning, because we were planning a wedding now all of a sudden. My brother also got engaged, so it was like, okay, wow. I have to go to Jamaica for his wedding, and so we opted to get real jobs planning. We'll go back out to the bus like next season. And
wait, so when was this? When did you park the bus in St. John's or in New Brunswick?
This would have been October of 2018.
Okay.
So a year and a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and our goal was to get back out there this summer, but of
2019.
Of 2019,
yeah.
and it just didn't happen. And yeah, it was really tough actually for both of us, because we both really wanted to get back out, but it was about kind of reconciling what do we want the bus project to turn into, mm-hmm. and where do we want that to go. And although the bus project was amazing and life-changing for the both of us, it was really only scalable so high,
mm-hmm.
because in order for us to make the impact for the charities, we literally had to be in a bus and in mm-hmm. that city and working with that charity, and so on the ground, right? Yeah. And so we really wanted to look at ways that we could scale up that impact, and and try and find an entrepreneurial project that would kind of identify with that, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of taken a full year now, and this last summer I started with an organization called Trellis, and for those who don't know, they're a social enterprise that helps local charities with their fundraising campaigns and events. And interestingly enough, so I'd known the founder for quite some time, Justin LeeStolz. He when he first started Trellis, was like, I was telling him I'm going to do this bus project, and I got to fly back east, and I got to do this fundraiser, and he's mm-hmm. like, that's awesome, man, I have this platform I'm building, and it's going to be exactly what you need. You could host the campaign on Trellis. And I was like, awesome. And then we flew all the way back east, and he's like, and I'm like, okay, man, we got the charity, we got the campaign, we're ready to launch. He's like, cool. Here's the thing though, it's actually taken longer to build than I thought. So we totally want you to help, but I think we're gonna have to do it a little manual. And so literally our campaign for Bridges to Hope we had in St. John's, they put up a landing page. The video clip was on there, the thermometer was on there, you could make donations. Yeah. But every time a donation came in, we literally had to text Trellis and be like, hey, we just got another $10, and then they would go into the back end and then manually tick the thermometer up $10, and on the weekends they would just disappear. And so on the weekends I'd be getting emails from donors being like, hey, did my donation go through? I'm like, yeah, totally, don't worry about it.
Thermometer just a little cold right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's St. John's, it gets cold, they understand. But yeah, thankfully the product did continue to grow, and now it's a fully fledged fundraising platform, and they specialize in third-party fundraising, and so third-party fundraising is when some crazy person that might live in a bus or might not decides to fundraise on behalf of a local charity. Mm-hmm. And so the potential to inspire and amplify third-party fundraising across Canada it became the mission that I took on within the company.
Yeah.
So this last quarter, we launched this Sprout a Fundraiser campaign, and we gave away $10,000. And essentially, as a contest, anybody that fundraised for a local charity on our platform in that quarter entered their charity in for that $10,000 prize, which is cool. And so the idea was to amplify that $10,000 into 50 or 100 grand.
Yeah.
And I think we're actually on track to hit 100 grand in collective fundraising in the Okanagan Valley, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So now the goal is to take that across Canada, and our vision is to fly back out and get the bus and drive the bus back across Canada, and the idea is to give away $1 million to incentivize $10 million of collective fundraising across Canada. So
that bus will be $1 million bus.
The bus will be $1 million bus. So that is the goal. Yeah, that's where it's at.
That's amazing. Okay, so that's kind of where the future is going of things. So you're getting married, and that $1 million bus will become $1 million bus.
That's the goal. There's all sorts of adventures in between now and then.
Yeah.
It'll probably be another year before we can raise the $1 million to bring the bus back and to give it away. Mm-hmm. And we'll probably break it out into different segments in different provinces and so on, so that everybody can be involved. But yeah, that's what it is. So hopefully Kodiak Transpo, if you're listening, you'll still keep storing my bus until I can come back and get it.
It's for a good cause.
It's for a good cause. We're gonna give it $1 million and raise a whole bunch of good money for charities. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And if you look back at the life experience that you've had so far and the different avenues and tracks that you've gone on, is there an overarching lesson or big learning lesson that you have that you're like, this is the life lesson?
Right. I would say, don't let indecision become your decision. Because it's so easy to not commit and not make sacrifices and always look at the opportunity cost and to be afraid of failure or the unknown. And if you try and do everything, you'll very quickly end up doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And that is, I guess, lesson / regret that I have. I mean, it's not a regret because it brought me to where I am today.
Yeah.
But if I had that lesson earlier, I think life would have shifted earlier for me.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that for the worse or for the better.
Yeah.
But that's how I won't say I'm perfect at it today, but I try and live my life going all in on the things that I care about. Mm-hmm. and following my passions, and doing things not with an expectation of what they need to be, but just doing them because I want to do them and because I care to do them, and that it always opens doors to new things, and you can always go back to old things, so just do things and do things that you love, and life will open up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And you're a fun guy. You do a lot of fun stuff and you take a lot of risks. Maybe you didn't when you were a kid, but you certainly have in the last 5 to 7 years or so of your life.
Yeah.
And in that risk taking, what's an embarrassing or frustrating moment?
Oh my God.
That taught you something? Because I'm sure there was lots of fun moments in there, but they may not have taught you anything.
Well, okay, so I've lots of embarrassing stories that I could share, because that seems to be my life. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know about embarrassing, but the doing the bus project and launching the campaign and failing was a really hard lesson, but failing forward, and failure is such a scary word, but at the same time, if you're not trying, you're not if you're trying, most likely you're failing, and that's a good thing, because I never would have been able to do all the other things that I'd done if I didn't fail at that first, because I needed to learn the hard lesson of that I need to put the focus on the charities and not on the bus, and that there's just I think you have to learn to love failure and to, like you said, take risks, because if you don't take those risks and you can't embrace the failure, and realize that it's only failure if you just if you stop and give up and allow the embarrassment or the fear of judgment to it is hard in that moment, right? But if you can persevere through that, people respect you so much more,
Yeah.
and you respect yourself so much more, and you can achieve so much more because you can learn from those lessons, right? So
Yeah. Definitely. If you could go back, and then you kind of already said it, but is it the same advice that you would give to yourself earlier, as to start living more fully, or is there another piece of advice that if you could talk to younger Ryan, be like, dude, do this, or here's a nugget of wisdom that you should know now that will help you?
Oh man. You know, when I was younger, I think like I said, I was so full of dreams and so full of inspiration to write and you know, do creative projects and stuff. And some of the best experiences that I've had have been just doing a creative project for no other sake than just like, you know, like what you're doing right now with this. Like, I think it's so cool that you're and it doesn't need to be perfect. Just pursue those passions in your life, and you'll be so much happier with your life. And I think I gave up on that for a long time, and getting back to it is been one of the best things I've done in my life. And so younger me should like shake his hand at like middle life me for not continuing to pursue those passions, right? So
so pursue your passions.
Yeah.
And what is a fun fact that nobody would know about you?
Ooh, fun fact. Oh man, this is tough. I feel like, see, here's the problem with this question, is because I'm like, I pride myself on being such an open book, and I don't hide a lot of things. So,
but there's definitely
you're pushing.
Yeah, because everybody who tells me that they're an open book, I'm like, really? People know what your bathroom routine is in the morning, and they know that you had a cooking show in your grandma's basement when you were a kid, or you have a button or stamp collection. Like, I bet you there are people that don't know those things about you. How about, you know, things like, how old were you the first time you made Jell-O?
Oh, yeah. That's a whole long-winded story, the Jell-O story. I'll tell you what, you know, you jog my memory. Here's something interesting that no one would know about me. When I have a big passion for entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship actually I had from a very early age. So when I was younger, I wanted to have my own restaurant. So I convinced my mom to open a restaurant in our house. And we, God bless her, we like wrote out menus, and printed them, and then like photocopied them, and then like glued them together. I don't know why we couldn't do double-sided printing, but that was a thing. And then I handed them out through my neighborhood, and then like kids came over to like eat at my restaurant, but the reality is that it was just me being like, Mom, we want grilled cheese. Because that was on the menu, and like it was only things that my mom was gonna make for like me and my friends, and we didn't have like costs or like actual.
There's no pricing.
No, there's no pricing. Everything is like, come on in, and we have grilled cheese. So, so that, yeah, and then, you know, I from there I actually went to working for my dad at the racetrack, and a lot of people don't know that my family's in horse racing.
I did not know that.
There you go. So there's a fact. And so my next little entrepreneurial venture, we had little bikes that we bomb around the racetrack with, and like after the races, if you've ever seen a standardbred horse, they have like the cart and the sulky and the guy in the back, not on the back of the horse but on the cart, and they have a little number pad on the back, right? Well, they only have so many of those number pads, and they have to the drivers have to bring them back to the paddock at the end of the race. And it's a pain in the ass because you had to like hike it all the way back, and if you lost the race, you really didn't want to go back there.
You were not going back.
Yeah, so I started biking around and just asking people if I can take their number back for some change, and
smart.
Yeah, so I like would throw the number on my bike, and I'd bike it back, and like, you know, guys that won races would be like, yeah, here's $20, and I'd be like, all right, like, it's amazing, right? Like, you're like 9, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I'm about so many comic books, and I'd bike back. But then when we got back to school, they had us write out like, what did you do this summer? And so I wrote out like, I was at the racetrack with my dad, and I was running numbers, and so I like. Teacher actually called my mom into the office because she was like, she thought that I was like involved in some like underground gambling, running numbers for the casino and like the mob on the island or something like that. No, I was physically running numbers. Yeah, but anyways. So.
That's amazing. Those are great fun facts, and I bet you not many people know those about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Ryan, for sharing your story today. There's so much that I'm looking forward to seeing happen with Trellis and with the bus and with you and Mandy.
Aww.
And if you guys want to meet Mandy, just stay tuned. She'll be coming up shortly. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they connect with you?
How do they connect with me? Well, I'm not super active on social these days. Obviously, you can connect with Trellis on Instagram and Facebook and all those kind of things. Trellis.org, Trellis.org, I think. Mm-hmm. And you can still look up stuff on the $1 Million Bus. So I do check the $1 Million Bus DM. So, you know, at $1 Million Bus. Instagram, Facebook. I think we're like at $1M Bus on Twitter because Twitter sucks. But yeah, you can pretty much find us, and hopefully the bus project, if you're following, will ramp back up again soon, so you'll have lots to follow along with.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show today, and we will track you in the future.
Awesome, and thank you for having me. This is so awesome.
You're welcome.
You are amazing.
Thank you for tuning in for today's episode, and please do leave your comments and reviews. If you enjoyed what you heard, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and share it with a friend. If you know someone in the Okanagan who has an awesome business or project with a great social impact, please nominate them through the website. Until next time, folks, stay awesome.